The Arizona desert stretched endlessly under a merciless sun, its red sand shimmering like waves of liquid copper. Highway 66 cut through the barren landscape like a scar, and along its cracked asphalt shoulder walked Marcus Reed, a man who had seen too much and said too little. Marcus was 42, but the lines etched deep into his weathered face told the story of someone much older. His military-issue boots kicked up small clouds of dust with each step, and his faded green jacket, adorned with patches from the 75th Ranger Regiment, hung loose on his frame. He'd lost weight since leaving the service. Lost a lot of things, actually. 3 years ago, Marcus had returned from his 4th deployment in the Middle East. The medals they pinned on his chest felt heavier than any gear he'd ever carried. The nightmares came every night without fail, dragging him back to Kandahar, to the explosion that took half his unit, to the screams he couldn't silence no matter how much whiskey he poured down his throat. His marriage hadn't survived. Sarah had tried, God knows she'd tried, but how could she understand the man who came back when even he didn't recognize himself anymore? The divorce papers were signed on a Tuesday. He'd moved out that same evening, taking only what fit in his old duffel bag. Now, 6 months later, Marcus found himself walking. Just walking. No destination, no plan. The veterans counselor in Phoenix had said he needed purpose and connection. Marcus figured if he walked far enough, maybe he'd find those things. Or maybe the desert would swallow him whole. Either outcome seemed acceptable. The thermometer had read 104 degrees when he'd passed through the last gas station 20 miles back. That was 4 hours ago. His water bottle was empty, sloshing with nothing but warm air. Smart planning, he thought bitterly. Ranger school taught you better than this, Reed. That's when he heard it, a low, pained whimper cutting through the desert silence. Marcus stopped, his hand instinctively moving to his hip where his sidearm used to rest. Old habits. He scanned the landscape, eyes squinting against the glare. There, about 30 yards off the highway, partially hidden behind a cluster of sun-bleached rocks, something moved. He approached cautiously, his boots crunching on the gravel. As he drew closer, the shape resolved itself into a dog, no, a mutt of indeterminate breed, all ribs and matted fur the color of rust and sand. The animal was lying on its side, panting heavily, one of its hind legs twisted at an unnatural angle. "Hey there, buddy," Marcus said softly, kneeling down slowly. The dog's eyes, one blue, one brown, tracked his movement with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Rough day, huh? You and me both." The dog whined again, trying to crawl toward him and failing. Marcus could see the leg was broken, probably hit by a car and dragged itself here to die. The pragmatic part of his brain, the soldier's brain, told him to keep walking. This animal was done for. Nature would take its course. But Marcus didn't walk away. Instead, he shrugged off his jacket despite the heat and carefully wrapped it around the dog's trembling body. "Easy now. I got you." The animal didn't resist, too weak or too trusting, Marcus wasn't sure which. He lifted the dog as gently as he could, feeling the rapid heartbeat against his chest, the shallow breathing. The animal probably weighed 40 pounds, mostly bone. "Where'd you come from, huh? Who left you out here?" As if in answer, the dog turned its mismatched eyes toward the east, toward the deeper desert, and made a sound, not quite a bark, more like an urgent vocalization. "Nothing out there but more nothing, friend," Marcus muttered, but he felt something shift inside him. For the first time in months, something other than himself needed him. Something he might actually be able to help. The walk back to the highway seemed longer with the injured dog in his arms. By the time Marcus flagged down a passing pickup truck, a beat-up Chevy driven by a weathered rancher named Bill, his arms were burning and sweat poured down his face in rivers. "Vets in Kingman," Bill said, eyeing the dog with skepticism. "That's 40 miles. Animal looks pretty far gone, son." "Then we better drive fast," Marcus replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. Bill shrugged and hit the gas. The veterinary clinic in Kingman was a small, single-story building with faded blue siding and a sign that read, Dr. Sarah Chen, DVM. The irony of the name wasn't lost on Marcus. Another Sarah, another chance to save something. Dr. Chen was a petite woman in her mid-30s with intelligent eyes and hands that moved with practiced efficiency. She took one look at the dog and ushered them into an examination room immediately. "How long has he been like this?" she asked, gently probing the injured leg while the dog whimpered. "Found him maybe 2 hours ago," Marcus said, standing awkwardly by the door. "Out on 66, near the 20-mile marker." Dr. Chen's eyebrows rose. "That's remote. No water, brutal heat. He's severely dehydrated and malnourished. This break is at least a day old, maybe 2. She looked up at Marcus. "You saved his life by bringing him in. Another few hours and..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. "Can you fix him?" Marcus asked, surprised by how much the answer mattered. "The leg?" "Yes. With surgery, pins, rehabilitation. But it's expensive, Mr. Reed." Marcus Reed. He hesitated. "How expensive?" "Between the surgery, medications, follow-up care? We're looking at around $3,000. Marcus felt his stomach drop. His disability check barely covered rent and food. He had maybe $300 in his account. I don't have that kind of money." Dr. Chen's expression softened. "Are you the owner?" "No. Just found him." "Then legally, he becomes the responsibility of animal control. They'll hold him for 7 days, and if no one claims him..." She trailed off, but Marcus understood. With an injury like this, no one would adopt him. The dog would be euthanized. Marcus looked at the animal on the examination table. Despite his pain, despite everything, the dog was watching him with those strange, mismatched eyes. There was something in that gaze, intelligence, recognition, maybe even gratitude. "Do the surgery," Marcus heard himself say. "Mr. Reed, I just told you." "I heard you. Do the surgery. I'll figure out the money. Set up a payment plan, work it off, whatever." He met her eyes. "Just save him." Dr. Chen studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay. But he'll need somewhere to recover. 6 to 8 weeks of careful monitoring, limited mobility, medications twice daily. Do you have a place?" Marcus thought of his studio apartment in Phoenix, barely furnished, walls bare except for the shadows of where wedding photos used to hang. "Yeah," he said. "I got a place." "Then let's get started." The surgery took 3 hours. Marcus spent that time in the clinic's small waiting room, surrounded by faded posters of happy pets and their owners. He tried not to think about the money, about how he'd make it work. Instead, he found himself wondering about the dog, where he'd come from, how he'd ended up broken and alone in the desert. Not so different from me, Marcus thought. When Dr. Chen finally emerged, there was a tired smile on her face. "He made it through like a champ. The leg is stabilized, and he's surprisingly resilient. I'd like to keep him overnight for observation, but you can pick him up tomorrow." Relief washed over Marcus, surprising in its intensity. "Thank you, Doctor." "Sarah," she corrected gently. "And Marcus? What you did today, that took courage. A lot of people would have kept walking." Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. Seemed like the right thing to do. It was. Sarah hesitated, then added, "I saw your jacket. The patches. Thank you for your service." The familiar phrase made Marcus tense, the automatic response rising to his lips. But before he could deliver his standard deflection, Sarah continued. "My brother was Army. Iraq, 2008. He came home different too. Her eyes held understanding without pity. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. Marcus swallowed hard and simply nodded. That night, in his motel room, too expensive, but the walk back to Phoenix would take days, Marcus lay on the lumpy mattress and stared at the water-stained ceiling. For the first time in months, he didn't reach for the bottle of Jim Beam in his bag. Instead, he thought about the dog, recovering in the clinic, fighting to survive. Maybe they could both learn to heal. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Dr. Chen had given him her cell in case of emergency. But this message made his blood run cold. The dog knows. He's been trying to show you. The desert holds answers you've been searching for. Tomorrow, listen to him. Follow where he leads. A friend. Marcus sat up, his heart pounding. Who the hell? How did they get this number? What did they know about the dog? He tried calling back, but the number was disconnected. Texted back, but it bounced as undeliverable. Outside, the desert wind howled against the window, carrying with it the scent of sage and something else, something ancient and unknowable. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He couldn't shake the feeling that finding that dog wasn't an accident. That something much bigger was in motion. And tomorrow, when he picked up his new companion, their real journey would begin. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the clinic just after dawn. Dr. Chen was already there, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she'd pulled an all-nighter with other emergencies. He's doing remarkably well, she said, leading Marcus to the recovery room. Almost too well, honestly. His vitals are stronger than they should be at this stage, and the swelling is already down significantly. I've never seen healing progress this fast. The dog was lying in a large kennel, his injured leg wrapped in bright blue bandages and secured in a splint. When he saw Marcus, his tail began to wag slowly, and he made that same urgent sound from yesterday. "Hey, buddy," Marcus said, kneeling by the kennel. "How you feeling?" The dog struggled to his feet on three legs, pressing against the kennel door, those mismatched eyes locked on Marcus with startling intensity. "He's been restless since about 4 a.m., Sarah said. Keeps making that sound, looking toward the east. I thought maybe he needed to go out, but it's something else. It's like he's trying to tell us something." Marcus remembered the strange text message. The dog knows. "Can I take him now?" Marcus asked. Sarah nodded, opening the kennel. "Here are his medications, instructions for care, and a cone to keep him from bothering the stitches. You'll need to keep him calm and confined for at least 2 weeks. No running, no jumping, minimal walking. Bring him back in 7 days for a checkup." As Marcus carefully lifted the dog, feeling the warmth of the animal against his chest, Sarah added quietly, "Marcus? That message last night, be careful. The desert has its secrets, and some of them aren't meant to be found." Marcus froze. "How did you?" "I got one too." She handed him a piece of paper. On it, in the same untraceable way, was a message: help him find what's lost. The fate of more than you know depends on it. Their eyes met, and Marcus saw the same mixture of fear and curiosity he felt reflected in her gaze. "I don't understand any of this," he admitted. "Neither do I. But Marcus? I think you're about to." The drive back to Phoenix should have taken 90 minutes. Marcus made it in 2 hours, driving carefully to avoid jostling his passenger. The dog, he really needed a name, lay on the seat beside him, wrapped in blankets, those strange eyes alert despite the pain medications. "All right, buddy," Marcus said as they merged onto I-17 South. "We need to talk about what happens next. I've got a tiny apartment, no yard, and I'm not exactly rolling in cash. But we'll figure it out. We're both survivors, right?" The dog turned his head toward the window, watching the desert landscape roll past. Then, suddenly, he lurched upright and began barking, sharp, insistent barks that cut through the truck's cabin like alarm bells. Whoa, easy. Marcus steadied the dog with one hand. Doc said you need to stay calm. What's got into you? But the dog wouldn't stop. He was staring at an exit sign approaching on their right, Red Rock Junction, 2 miles. Population 347. Marcus had driven past this exit 100 times and never given it a second thought. Red Rock Junction was barely a town, just a gas station, a diner, and a handful of houses scattered across the desert floor. There was nothing there. The dog's barking intensified, becoming almost frantic. You want me to take this exit? Marcus asked, feeling ridiculous for talking to an animal like it could understand complex questions. The dog locked eyes with him and, impossibly, seemed to nod. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. The dog knows. Follow where he leads. Against every logical instinct, Marcus flicked on his turn signal and took the exit. Red Rock Junction looked even more desolate than Marcus remembered. The gas station's pumps were ancient, and rust ate at every metal surface. The diner, Martha's Home Cooking, had seen better decades, its neon sign flickering weakly even in the bright morning sun. The dog had calmed once they exited, but now he was alert, his head swiveling as if searching for something specific. Marcus parked in front of the diner and turned to his passenger. Okay, we're here. Now what? The dog's gaze fixed on something across the street, a small general store with a faded awning that read Chavez Trading Post. The building looked ancient, adobe walls weathered by countless desert storms. The store? You want to go to the store? Marcus shook his head. I'm losing my mind. Talking to a dog about shopping. But he got out anyway, carefully lifting the dog and carrying him across the empty street. The animal was getting heavier, or maybe Marcus was just tired. He hadn't slept properly in days. A small bell chimed as Marcus pushed open the trading post's door. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of leather, tobacco, and something else, incense, maybe, or sage. Shelves lined the walls, packed with everything from canned goods to handmade jewelry to what looked like genuine Native American artifacts. Behind the counter sat an elderly man who could have been anywhere from 70 to 100 years old. His face was deeply lined, his long silver hair pulled back in a traditional braid. He wore a denim shirt and a turquoise buelo tie, and his dark eyes showed no surprise at seeing a stranger walk in carrying an injured dog. Marcus Reed, the old man said, his voice like gravel tumbling in a barrel. Took you long enough. Marcus stopped dead. How do you know my name? Same way I knew you'd come. Same way I know what you've been running from, and what you're about to run toward. The old man stood slowly, joints creaking. My name is Joseph Chavez. And that dog you're holding? He's been waiting for you for a very long time. That's impossible. I just found him yesterday. Did you? Joseph's eyes twinkled with something that might have been amusement. Or did he find you? The dog whined softly, and Joseph nodded as if the animal had spoken. He says you're stubborn but brave. Broken but not beyond repair. He chose well. Chose me for what? Marcus felt his grip on reality slipping. Look, old man, I don't know what kind of game this is. No game, soldier. Joseph's expression hardened. 3 nights ago, something fell from the sky. Out in the deep desert, about 40 miles east of here, in the old Red Canyon territory. No sound, no explosion, just a light that turned the night into day for 30 seconds. Marcus felt his heart rate spike. A meteor? If it was a meteor, the government would be crawling all over it by now. But there's been nothing. No military, no scientists, no news coverage. It's like it never happened. Joseph paused. Except it did happen, and your dog was there when it did. He's not my dog, Marcus said automatically, then realized how hollow that sounded given everything that had happened. He is now, Joseph replied simply. And he's been trying to lead you back there ever since he got injured escaping. Escaping from what? Joseph's face grew grave. From what came with the light. From what's still out there, waiting. He walked to a back room and returned with a rolled-up piece of paper, an old topographical map of the region. He spread it across the counter, his gnarled finger pointing to a spot marked in red ink. Red Canyon. Apache holy ground. My grandfather's grandfather told stories about that place, said it was where the sky people first came down to teach us wisdom. I always thought they were just stories. He looked up at Marcus. I don't think that anymore. Marcus studied the map. Red Canyon was remote, accessible only by rough terrain that would destroy most vehicles. Why me? Why not tell the authorities? Because they'd bring tanks and fear. Whatever's out there, it needs someone who understands sacrifice, who knows what it means to protect others even at great cost. Joseph's eyes bore into Marcus. Your dog knew that about you. He's been searching for someone like you since he left that canyon. And when he got hit by that truck trying to reach the highway, he still kept going. Kept looking. Until he found you. Dogs don't do that, Marcus whispered, but his conviction was wavering. Regular dogs don't. Joseph reached out and gently touched the dog's head. The animal leaned into the touch, eyes closing briefly. But this one isn't entirely dog, is he? Look at his eyes, soldier. Really look. Marcus did. Those mismatched eyes, one blue, one brown, seemed to swirl with depth that went beyond any normal animal. In that moment, Marcus could have sworn he saw intelligence there, ancient and knowing. What is he? Marcus asked. A bridge. A messenger. A guardian. Joseph smiled softly. And now, your friend. He'll show you the way, if you're brave enough to follow. Marcus's mind raced. Everything in him screamed that this was insane, that he should get back in his truck and drive to Phoenix, return to his quiet life of slow-motion self-destruction. But something else stirred in his chest, something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. The canyon's rough territory, Marcus said slowly. I'd need supplies. 4-wheel drive. Water for days. Joseph was already moving, pulling items from shelves. I've been preparing since the light came. Food, water, medical supplies, emergency beacon, satellite phone. He hefted a large backpack onto the counter. And this. He produced a hunting rifle, well-maintained, with a scope. Just in case. In case of what? In case whatever's out there isn't friendly. Joseph loaded a box of ammunition onto the counter. My grandfather used to say that the sky people were teachers, but even teachers can be dangerous if you approach them wrong. Respect and caution, Marcus. That's how you survive first contact. Marcus felt reality tilt again. First contact. You're talking about aliens. I'm talking about the unknown. Might be aliens, might be something else entirely. Does it matter? Something impossible is out there, and it sent a messenger to find you specifically. Joseph pushed the supplies across the counter. Take them. No charge. Consider it my investment in humanity's future. That's a hell of an investment based on the word of a stray dog. That stray dog dragged himself 30 miles through the desert with a broken leg to find help. If that's not proof of determination and purpose, I don't know what is. Joseph pulled out one more item, a small leather pouch on a cord. Wear this. It's a protection charm. My grandmother made it before she passed. She said I'd know when to give it to the right person. Marcus took the pouch, feeling the weight of it, heavier than it should be. Inside, he could feel small stones or crystals. Joseph, I'm not some chosen one. I'm just a broken-down soldier with PTSD and a pile of bad decisions. The best heroes usually are, Joseph replied with a knowing smile. The chosen ones in stories always start out thinking they're nobody special. That's what makes them heroes, they do the right thing anyway. It took Marcus an hour to transfer all the supplies from his truck to Joseph's old Jeep Wrangler, a 1990s model that looked like it had survived multiple apocalypses but still ran like a dream. "She'll get you there," Joseph assured him, patting the Jeep's hood affectionately. "I've taken her through worse terrain. Four-wheel drive, reinforced suspension, and she's never let me down." Marcus carefully settled the dog into the passenger seat, creating a nest of blankets to cushion his injured leg. The animal seemed calmer now, as if knowing they were finally heading in the right direction. "One more thing," Joseph said, handing Marcus a worn leather journal. "My grandfather's diary. He wrote about the old stories, the ceremonies, everything he knew about Red Canyon. It might help you understand what you're walking into." Marcus accepted the journal, feeling the weight of generations in his hands. "Why are you doing all this? You don't even know me." Joseph's weathered face softened. "I know enough. I know you're a man who stopped on a desert highway to save a dying dog when most people would have kept driving. I know you spent money you don't have to give that dog a chance at life. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." He gripped Marcus's shoulder firmly. "Besides, I'm 78 years old. My adventuring days are behind me. But you? You've got fire in you still, even if you've been trying to drown it. This journey might just reignite it." Marcus swallowed hard, emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "What if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough for whatever's out there? Then you come back and try again. Failure isn't the end, son. Giving up is." Joseph stepped back, raising one hand in farewell. "The dog will guide you. Trust him, even when logic says you shouldn't. Especially then." As Marcus climbed into the Jeep, he caught his reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, he saw something other than a ghost staring back. He saw possibility. The dog made a soft sound, almost like a word, though that was impossible, and placed his paw on Marcus's arm. "All right, buddy," Marcus said, starting the engine. "You want to go home? Let's go home." He pulled out of Red Rock Junction, heading east into the deep desert, leaving behind the world of gas stations and diners and everything that made sense. Ahead lay only red sand, ancient stone, and mysteries that fell from the stars. The dog watched the horizon with those impossible eyes, and for the first time since the explosion in Kandahar that changed everything, Marcus felt like he was finally moving forward instead of just running away. The paved road lasted exactly 7 miles before giving way to dirt and gravel. Marcus engaged the four-wheel drive, feeling the Jeep's tires grip the rough terrain. The landscape around them shifted from sparse desert scrub to something more primal, massive red rock formations that jutted from the earth like the bones of sleeping giants. According to Joseph's map, they were heading toward the Vermilion Cliffs area, but off any established trails. This was backcountry, the kind of place where people disappeared and search parties never found anything but boot prints leading nowhere. The dog remained alert but calm, occasionally making small sounds that Marcus was starting to interpret as directions. A short bark meant turn. A whine meant slow down. A low growl, which happened once when Marcus started heading south, meant wrong way. "You're either the smartest dog in the world, or I've completely lost my mind," Marcus muttered, correcting course. They drove for 3 hours, stopping occasionally to give the dog water and to stretch. The July heat was brutal, even with the Jeep's struggling air conditioning. Marcus went through 2 bottles of water just in the first hour. Around noon, the dog suddenly stood up on 3 legs, ears forward, body tense. He barked 3 times in quick succession. Marcus stopped the Jeep immediately. "What is it?" The dog was staring at a narrow gap between 2 massive rock formations, barely wide enough for the Jeep to fit through. "You want to go through there?" Marcus studied the passage skeptically. The map showed nothing in that direction, just blank space. But Joseph had said to trust the dog. Marcus took a deep breath and eased the jeep forward. The passage was tight, rock walls scraping against both sides of the vehicle with sounds that made Marcus wince. But they made it through, and what lay on the other side made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. A hidden valley spread before them, maybe 2 miles across, ringed by sheer red cliffs that rose 500 feet into the brilliant blue sky. At the center of the valley, something gleamed in the sunlight, something that definitely didn't belong there. It looked like a massive crystal, easily 30 feet tall, embedded in the desert floor. It pulsed with internal light, shifting through colors that Marcus had never seen before, colors that didn't seem to exist in normal reality. And around the crystal, the sand had been transformed. Instead of the usual red-brown, it glittered like crushed diamonds, forming intricate patterns that spiraled outward from the crystal in mathematical precision. "Jesus Christ," Marcus whispered. The dog barked once, urgently, and Marcus understood. "This is what I've been trying to show you. This is why I found you. This is where everything changes." Marcus put the jeep in gear and started down the slope into the valley, his heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. Whatever that crystal was, whatever had fallen from the sky 3 nights ago, he was about to come face to face with it. And nothing in his military training, nothing in his life experience, had prepared him for what would happen next. As they approached the crystal, it began to pulse faster, brighter, and Marcus could have sworn he heard something, not a sound exactly, but a presence in his mind, ancient and vast and curious. "Welcome, Keeper," the presence seemed to say. "We have been waiting." The dog howled, a sound that echoed off the canyon walls and seemed to harmonize with the crystal's thrumming pulse. And in that moment, Marcus understood that his life had just been irrevocably divided into 2 parts, everything that came before this moment, and everything that would come after. The real journey was just beginning. Marcus killed the engine 50 yards from the crystal, suddenly aware that getting too close too fast might be a terrible idea. The thing was enormous up close, its surface smooth and faceted like a gemstone but with an internal structure that seemed to shift and reconfigure constantly. The colors it produced weren't just beautiful, they were hypnotic, pulling at something deep in Marcus's consciousness. The dog whined, wanting to get closer. "Easy," Marcus said, though his hand was trembling as he reached for the rifle. "Let's be smart about this." He stepped out of the jeep, rifle slung over his shoulder, and carefully lifted the dog. The animal's weight was reassuring, solid and real in a situation that felt increasingly surreal. The valley was utterly silent. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just the soft pulse of the crystal and Marcus's own breathing. Even his footsteps on the transformed sand made no sound, as if the material absorbed all noise. As they got within 20 yards, Marcus could feel it, a vibration in his bones, a humming in his teeth. The air itself seemed to shimmer around the crystal, and Marcus noticed something else, the temperature. Despite the desert heat, the air near the crystal was cool, almost cold. The dog struggled in his arms, wanting down. "Your leg," Marcus started, but the dog was insistent, surprisingly strong despite his injury. Marcus set him down carefully, and immediately the dog began hobbling forward on 3 legs, moving toward the crystal with single-minded determination. "Wait." Marcus followed, rifle now in his hands though he had no idea what he'd shoot. "Don't get too close." But the dog ignored him, reaching the base of the crystal and sitting down, looking up at the towering structure with what could only be described as reverence. And then the crystal responded. A beam of light shot from its apex into the sky, a column of pure radiance that Marcus knew, somehow, would be visible from space. The light was painful to look at directly, but Marcus couldn't turn away. Within the beam, he saw things. Images, symbols, entire streams of information pouring upward into the atmosphere. A beacon, Marcus realized. It's calling something. Or someone. The dog turned to look at Marcus, and those mismatched eyes were glowing now, reflecting the crystal's light. When the animal opened its mouth, what came out wasn't a bark. It was a voice, feminine, melodic, and utterly alien. "Hello, Marcus Reed. Thank you for bringing me home." Marcus dropped the rifle. The voice continued, emanating from the dog but clearly not of the dog. "Do not be afraid. I am Lyra, explorer of the Galactic Consortium, sent to this world 3 cycles ago to study your species' development. When my vessel was damaged by your satellite's debris, I was forced to make an emergency landing. In the crash, my consciousness was separated from my primary form and needed a temporary biological host to survive." Marcus's mind reeled. You're an alien? And you've been possessing my dog?" "Not possessing. Symbiosis. The canine you found was near death, hit by one of your vehicles. I offered him a choice, death, or life shared with me until I could return to my true form. He accepted. Together, we have been more than either could be alone." "This is insane," Marcus said, "but he didn't run." "Couldn't run. Why me? Why lead me here?" The dog, Lyra, turned back to the crystal. "Because you are what we call a keeper. Rare among your species. Those with the capacity to understand that the universe is larger than your world teaches, and the courage to face that truth without breaking. I searched your planet's probability streams and found you, a protector who lost his way but not his heart." Probability streams? Marcus felt like his brain was short-circuiting. "The future is not fixed, Marcus Reed. It branches like the roots of a tree, infinite possibilities extending from every choice. I needed someone who would choose correctly when the moment came. Someone who would save a dying animal on an empty road instead of walking past. That single choice created the probability stream that leads to everything." "Everything what?" The crystal pulsed brighter, and new images appeared within it, cities among the stars, beings of impossible variety, ships that moved through space like fish through water, and something else, a darkness, spreading through it all like a cancer. "A war is coming to your galaxy. An ancient evil, older than your sun, has awakened in the void between galaxies. It consumes all in its path, matter, energy, thought itself. The Consortium has fought it for 1,000 of your years, but we are losing. We need allies. We need warriors. We need humans." Marcus laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You've got the wrong species. We can barely stop fighting each other long enough to look up at the stars." "Exactly. You are warriors born. Your species has survived ice ages, plagues, wars that should have ended you. You are resilient, adaptable, and impossibly brave. Where my people see a threat and calculate the odds of survival, your people see a threat and ask, how do we kill it? That instinct, that refusal to surrender, is what the Consortium needs. What the galaxy needs." The dog limped closer to Marcus, and when those glowing eyes met his, Marcus saw the truth there, all of it. The vastness of space, the weight of civilizations rising and falling, the countless worlds that had already been consumed by the darkness. And he saw something else, potential. Humanity's potential, if they could just survive long enough to reach it. "The beacon I've activated will be received by my people within your weeks. They will come, and they will offer your leaders a choice: join the Consortium, contribute your warriors to the defense, and gain access to technology and knowledge beyond your dreams. Or remain isolated, and when the darkness reaches your sector of the galaxy in approximately 30 of your years, face extinction alone. Why show me this?" Marcus asked, his voice hoarse. "I'm nobody. I can't speak for humanity. Because you will be their example. The first keeper. The bridge between my people and yours. When the Consortium arrives, they will need to see that humans and aliens can work together, trust each other, protect each other. They will need to see a human who saved an alien's life without even knowing it, and an alien who trusted a human enough to reveal everything." The dog sat, then slowly lay down, exhausted. "And because, Marcus Reed, you needed to see that your suffering had meaning. The pain you carry from your war, the nightmares, the guilt, it prepared you for this. It made you into someone who could bear the weight of this knowledge and not crumble. Marcus felt tears on his face, hot against his sunburned skin. The men I lost, the ones I couldn't save. They would want you to save others now. Save a world. Save countless worlds. The beacon's light began to fade, its message sent. The crystal's pulsing slowed to a gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat at rest. My people will arrive in 32 of your days. Until then, this valley must be protected. Can you do that, Marcus Reed? Will you stand as keeper until the consortium comes? Marcus looked at the dog, at the crystal, at the impossible situation he'd somehow walked into. Every rational part of his brain screamed that this was a delusion, a hallucination brought on by trauma and desert heat. But his heart knew better. Yeah, he said finally, wiping his eyes. Yeah, I'll protect it. I'll protect you. Thank you, Keeper. The glow faded from the dog's eyes, and the alien presence receded. The animal whimpered, suddenly just a dog again, injured, exhausted, but alive. Marcus sat down hard in the transformed sand, the rifle across his lap, the dog's head in his hand. Above them, the desert sky had darkened to deep purple as evening approached. Stars were beginning to appear, and for the first time in his life, Marcus looked at them and understood, they weren't just distant lights. They were homes. Civilizations. Battles being fought and lives being lived on a scale he'd never imagined. And somehow, impossibly, he was now part of it all. His satellite phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Sarah Chen. I don't understand what's happening, but I believe in you. Stay safe. Sarah. And another from Joseph Chavez. The old ones say that every hero's journey begins with a single step into the unknown. Walk proudly, Keeper. The stars are watching. Marcus smiled despite everything, despite the impossibility of it all. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't feel alone. He had a purpose. A mission. He was a keeper now, guardian of humanity's first contact with the galaxy beyond. And in 32 days, everything would change.